Welcome to the most forward-thinking, inspirational podcast on the planet. Prepare to reevaluate everything you've been taught and get ready to launch your mind into an entirely new reality. If you've always felt there had to be more to life, more to existence, then you're listening to the right podcast. Get comfortable, pour yourself a drink, sit back, and let your host, Adam R. Walton, expand your horizons. This is going to be good. This is going to be fun. This is going to be mind-bending. Time to think.
And here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Today, lots of fun for me today. Lots of fun for me, lots of fun for you, because if things are good for me, things are good for you, the listener. I have with us, today, episode number 76. And this is a big one for me because one of my very good, very near and dear friends, Mr. Randy Spencer, Canada's best athlete ever in the history of athletes, based on my scale, is with us today. And you may remember from way back in episode 30, we had Randy on the show. And at that time, I called that episode 76. I lied. You may have caught on that I lied, which also has made this now the longest intro that I've ever done. This is episode 76 with the incomparable Randy Spencer. Ladies and gentlemen, please, with a great, warm welcome back to the show, Randy Spencer. How the hell are you, brother?
That was amazing. All lies, but still amazing.
It's not lies, you see, because I believed everything I said. So it was all
It's true. It's all truth to one person.
And since it's my show, that's really all that matters. I mean, you can watch any news channel, you can watch anything, and that's their version. If you believe it, that becomes your truth. So,
yeah,
according to the Mental Mastery Alliance, you are the greatest Canadian athlete of all time. Step aside Connor McDavid. Step aside Wayne Gretzky. We have Randy Spencer.
I love it. I need some awards to just back that up. I have to get a mental mastery award on my mantle here.
People have been sending me this thing on the Facebook where if they comment on the group page, they become like a super fan. So, I mean, I think if you make a few comments, you can have an award. Facebook's readily handing out these awards to people. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, right.
I have to admit, I have not paid a lick of attention to Facebook when it comes to connecting with people. Like, most of my work is Instagram, and I think Facebook's getting jealous because they keep sending me all these messages. I'm like, I don't understand you. Go away. Like, I can't figure this out.
Well, yeah, it's probably because they own them both, and then they can see which one you're using the most.
Yeah.
So they just use you against yourself.
Bastards.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So what you're saying
pretty
is,
much.
That's right. So since we last had you on the show, you've leaps and bounds. You've gone all over the place. You've done all kinds of crazy things. You're inventing new stuff. You're selling pieces of islands. I can't even put into words sort of what it is that you're up to and what you're all about. How have you been? And let us know a little bit about the pros of being Randy Spencer since we last spoke to you, which would have been, it's funny, what was that, like 3-4 months? It would have been probably August. So it's not even a full year.
It seems like eons ago.
It seems like a whole lifetime ago. Yeah, 100%. Since we had you back on, I talked to you almost every day. I was like, when was the last time I said August? That was a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
That's good times. And no, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not scrounging for guests because I do talk to this individual every day. We have actually, I'm going to jump right into it. We have something that I really wanted to talk about. Episode 76, 100% reserved for Randy. I've actually wanted to get him back on the show a few times, but I thought, no, we got to do it incongruent with his number, with his everything that is what it's supposed to be. Randy had a massive heart attack not too long ago. He's got
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and that happened. Yeah, exactly.
That little thing.
So today what we're going to do on the Mental Mastery Alliance, everybody pull up a chair, sit down, buckle in. Men out there, especially men, especially a little bit overweight men or active men or bigger men, we're going to save your life today. And, you don't have to turn the podcast off. We're not going to get all hippy-dippy on you, but we're just going to tell a story that if you listen to it, you might recognize some things, you might recognize some signs, and you might just, by mere minutes early, go into the hospital, get something checked out, make that phone call, return a page. I don't know what decade we're in. Anyhow, Randy, tell us a little bit about the ordeal that was your heart trying to kill you.
So, yeah, first to start, I know you're saying, men get ready for this, but to be dead honest, also what I've understood and learned once I was, past it, was this affects women even more than it does men. It's just we think it's a man, syndrome, like it's something that's just for men. But even going through cardiac rehab right now, there's more women in that room than there are men.
Well, that's interesting because you really don't hear about massive heart attacks for women.
100%.
You don't hear
I
that.
never even thought of it. And the same week I got out, my cousin, who's younger than me and a nurse, had the same exact thing happen to her. And I was like, what? And the lady that was beside me in the hospital also, that she had issues with her heart, and her son that was 25 had issues. It just, a whole new world opens up to you that you don't see. It's like walking into the back of a kitchen, if you've ever been a server.
Yeah.
And you everything looks foreign, and then the second you're back there, you're akin to this whole new world. Like, oh, I know what happens behind that door in the kitchen, right?
That's right.
And only servers can really tell you how that feels.
And that's why you don't eat at a lot of restaurants.
Yeah. 100%. But the heart attack. Sorry to interrupt.
No, gosh, no. That's huge too, because that's something that I definitely want to look at. Now, it's not that obviously we know that women have heart attacks. A heart will be attacked. It's what happens. But when you're talking about more and more of this happening, what's the common denominator? Obviously, the food that we're eating, the stuff that we're putting in our body, how we're treating ourselves. These are the things that are knocking us out at such a young age. You're not even in your 40s yet, or maybe you are 40.
40 on the dot.
40 on the dot, and you're having massive heart attacks. I'm nowhere near 40. I'm about 5 months away from it. Nowhere near.
Oh,
I'm nowhere near as old as you. Yeah. But I have to. Your story. I was riveted. I had to listen to this. I had to when you were first talking about it, obviously, and we were going back and forth, and I was updated. I wanted all the status updates, and yes, I made it seem like I cared about you, but I was just taking notes for me. I'm just kidding.
Of course,
right? No, I needed to know A, that you were okay, and B, this is such a huge thing, and it's also something that's ever changing. It's growing. It's like it's just what we're eating, what we're doing, how we're acting, how we're interacting, what's going on all around us, the energy, the vibrations of the televisions are screwing up with our systems. People, there's so many more ear infections. There's so many more this, that, and the other thing. And I talk so fast because I do have such a passion for making sure people don't die, first of all. And that you're still with us, that you're still around, that you made it through this. So if we back it up, let's talk about when it happened. What was going on? What were you up to that day?
Yeah. That day, just a regular day, went to the office for a couple hours, and then I said, I need to get a workout in. So I was like, why don't I just jump right back into jiu-jitsu? It's only been about 3 weeks to a month since I, rolled on the mat. So I went to a Brazilian jiu-jitsu class, and it was the first time they were kind of offering the lunch class. So it was right in the middle of the day. It was 12 o'clock, I think it was. And it was a full hour of rolling. And I usually go on every Friday, and the Fridays are fundamentals and teaching. So I've never gone through a full hour of rolling on through jiu-jitsu. And so, I got out of that class, and I was soaked from head to toe, right through my shirt. And, just barely walked to my car. I was just drained. It's literally the IV bag was empty. And I got home, and I was exhausted. I don't know how to explain it to that team. It's like, okay, that was an amazing workout. Didn't feel anything other than exhaustion.
Mhm.
And so I was like, okay, let's go. Let's get a shower, get ready. And, just as I was sitting there hunched over, I just felt like a full pressure come onto my heart, onto my chest. And it felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest. And I was like, okay, let me stretch this. Trying to breathe. Kind of had a feeling of what it was, but I'm like, no, this is not happening right now. I'm
Mhm.
home alone, just about to shower, standing there, nothing.
That's
Not
right.
to give anyone pictures, but
Which you did. You did. Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
But
I'm still thinking about it.
from my house. I'm in my house and I'm like, okay, this is not, if this is what it is, this is not how I'm going to be found.
I ain't going out like this.
I ain't going out like that. So, I'm like lying on my bed and trying to open up my chest as large as I can, like stretching my arms just wide open, start breathing, getting back to, okay, I'm like, hey, talk myself through it, because it's my power of my mind. I was like, all right, you're good. There's nothing I can take. It's not happening. So I'll get my stuff together, get my clothes on, and make a call to, a friend. And
how long was this? How long had this been going on? How long were you stretching yourself out? How long were you trying to?
It felt like 5 minutes. It probably was about 10. That stretch of time is unknown, but I know it wasn't as long as I think, like 5 to 10.
We're giving a ballpark here. So you're 5 to 10.
Yeah.
So 1 minute you're sitting there, nothing's wrong. You're getting down to your skivvies and doing the windmill. And now that's in your minds too, fans. I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a bit of a dick today. Great way to follow that up too. Doing the windmill, bit of a dick.
Yeah.
I'm not even. This one's okay. This one's out of my control. Not even. I'm here all week, folks. I'm here all week. So you're sitting on the edge of your bed, getting ready to jump in the shower. Shower's probably running. You're tickety boo.
Yep.
You're fine.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing's wrong. And then boom, an elephant immediately sits on your chest.
Yeah, pretty much.
So now you're going 5-10 minutes trying to walk it off.
Yep. And gather myself, put my things together, get downstairs in the house, and make a call to my neighbor. And I was like, just asking, okay, maybe do you have any aspirin? Because I have my certification and everything. So I've actually dealt with this on a work site before when I used to be in steel, where somebody had the same kind of symptoms. I took them down off a lift and I went straight to the site, sent somebody to the site to get aspirin, because I knew, okay, aspirin's going to thin the blood, blah, 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 help him out. And, ended up saving his life that day. He got into ambulance, everything's tickety-boo. So that's what went through my head first. So I called him, he had nothing. And I called another friend. And then he was kind of worried, like, he was like, are you sure you're okay? Like, are you having a heart attack? And I was like, oh, no. I was like, don't worry. And so he started getting freaked out. But I was like, well, if I can just get to Shoppers, to the store, I can get some aspirin, and I'll be fine. So that was my mentality, thinking. And I was like, all right. Then I was like, well, if I'm going to go to the store, there's a clinic right next door. So might as well just walk in, because I know you get preferential treatment if you ever say it's anything with your heart. So I walked in, told I drove there. Yeah, walked in. It's literally 2-minute drive, not even a 2-minute drive for me.
Meanwhile, you're right in the middle of a massive heart attack.
And so I walk in and I tell her, I think I'm having some heart issues. She puts me straight to the back. Doctor sees me. He's like, yes, you are. Let me get you an ambulance. I was like, oh, no, thanks. I'm okay.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay, says the man that looked like Casper, the biggest, blackest man you've ever seen, looking like Casper the ghost. Oh, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, when you have the understanding, because people may not understand, I'm in the insurance business. So I knew at that point, it was one of those things that I was trying to get myself covered for before, health-wise. I had to lose enough weight to get under a certain amount so I could cover myself.
So having a heart attack right now is extremely inconvenient.
Inconvenience. Oh,
Yeah.
completely.
Yes.
Especially when you don't have insurance for that one thing.
There you go.
And then you're now I can't cover myself for life, right? So I understood the importance of it, and it just really hit home for me. But being stubborn didn't help at that one point. So
It's not that
that's
you were
where I
that
was.
stubborn. So to trail back on that one, it's not that you were that stubborn. It's that you were already working towards getting yourself covered for a heart attack and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, like, you could have gone home and like attempted to do the paperwork a little bit more, but you you were already, prior to this, the weeks building up to this, you were already in the throes of mad fitness, proper eating.
Yeah.
You'd cut out alcohol. You were, doing a whole bunch of stuff at this point, and so you were already on the cusp. Like you were like
40 pounds down.
yeah, I remember too. You're like, I turned my life around, everything was good, and then boom, this takes you out.
Yeah.
So it's not like you weren't working towards getting covered for this. It's just one of those things. It's just, I mean, the timing on it was crazy for sure.
Yeah.
And so you say no to the pharmacist. The pharmacist is like, hey, let's get you an ambulance. The man in the lab coat, let's get you an ambulance. And you're like,
Oh,
nope.
that was the doctor. It was actual. It wasn't a pharmacy. It was the actual medicine center. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you walked into a clinic. And so the doctor, a trained doctor, is like, let's get you in the ambulance. And you're like, I'm calling bullshit on you because I know how much those cost, those ambulances.
Yeah.
Anyway, you go home and you let the dog out.
Yeah. I was like,
this is the story.
Definitely. I knew I could make it if I had to. And then I was trying to tell me I was fine because I'd gone through the worst, to be dead honest. It was done. And I was just, what went through my head was my neighbor. And then he's calling and he's like, oh, if you have a heart attack, it's actually worse after. 2 days later, you can die if you don't go check it out. So that's where it started getting in my head. So I called my wife and I told her what happened. And then she called. She told her parents, and her parents came to pick me up and dropped the kids off. And grandma stayed, and dad's like, no, you're going right now. I'm taking you. So that's, an hour and a bit later.
Yeah. Yeah. An hour and a bit later, you get dragged in. But by this point, prior to this, you'd already talked yourself. You're like, I'm good. We figured that out. I'm going to walk this off and be done with it. Now, we now know later on you ended up spending about a week, 6 or 7 days.
6 days. Yeah, 6 days.
So for a man that was going to walk it off, and all you men listening to this right now, and women, apparently, you're going to walk it off too. We have these thoughts in our mind, this did not happen to me. It can't be this. It can't be that. And a heart attack is important. And, the signs of this heart attack, elephant on your chest, you hear it all the time. They say, sometimes tingling in the extremities, but
in the arms. Yeah.
But an elephant on your chest seems to be the one that is congruent with virtually every account. And as you sit here and as we are laughing and we are kind of making, folly of the scenario and the situation. The man has a massive heart attack, could die on the spot, could have exploded on the bed. And
combustion.
Exactly. But decides that he doesn't want to get in trouble with the wife, because if the dog doesn't get out, he might pee somewhere and then they might get yelled at. So it's more important to take care of this. But this isn't just a Randy thing. This isn't just the greatest athlete in Canada thing. This is all men, all people everywhere have this. It can't be. This can't be. It can't be me. This can't be happening.
Yeah.
And that is, this is where the Mental Mastery Alliance is going to save your life. This is where this podcast, this program is going to save your life. You're going to take this in. You're going to have a few laughs. You're going to say, that's one hell of a story. But you might find yourself in a scenario, in a situation that's just like this. And if you do, you're going to have to act. That chewing 2 aspirin, great thing. But don't dismiss it. For a man that was attempting to walk it off, Randy, you're like, I'm done. I'm good. Your neighbor's like, go. Your wife is like, go. Your dad's like, let's do this. And you're like, no, I'm good. 6 days later. 6 days later, you're out of the hospital. Yeah. And this was, when did the heart attack take place?
November 15th, and I got out on the 21st.
So November 15th, out on the 21st. Yeah. And to this day, your life is different because of the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think that's the thing that, was the hardest thing to deal with, is people expect this huge, massive shift in life the second you get out. and you're not there yet.
Mhm.
You think you're trying to convince yourself you should be completely there, but dealing with how it's going to affect so many other people at the same time, you can't even allow yourself to get there, and then you beat yourself up for not being there because you're supposed to be there.
Mhm.
It's a really weird kind of thing for me that I can say that I had to deal with.
Yeah, I remember
yeah.
talking about that with you. I remember you saying it's like, and that's another thing too. People don't think about what happens next or what the next step is, what the immediate next step is when you get out. You've got that quote unquote, that feeling inside you, that second lease on life business.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're like, everything you do is supposed to be perfect now. It's like everyone's watching you.
Yeah.
It's like, here, you know what? No one knows how to act around you. Like, because if you're previously, like, say, if I go over to a friend's house and they're having beers, they're like, I'm not even going to get close to him and ask, kind of thing. Because he had a heart attack and he had to make the choice without me making the choice for him to talk to him, So everything turns awkward.
That's a weird, that's a weird process too. I mean, I mean, you can only think you can only think for yourself, and you can only put yourself in these positions. I mean, I think if you and I were in the same city and you were coming over, I don't think I would treat you any differently. I mean, I'd probably
certain people will get it.
Yeah,
that's the difference. But that's few and far in between. Like you're 1 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm 1 out of 10. That's it.
I get it.
Roughly every 10 people are like me. You, sir, you're 1 in 10. I like you. Perfect.
Yeah.
No,
you're a rare gem, bud.
Yeah. That's right. A cubic zirconian over here.
Is there 0.1 out of 10? Is that making more sense?
I don't know. It's like you're like, I think 1 in a million is like the other one, right? Isn't that the way you go with that?
Oh, yeah.
You just went low. 0.1 out of 10. You went the other way on that one.
Yeah,
let's do fractions in here.
Let's do fractions, yeah. I only do things on a scale of 10, okay?
That's it.
That's it.
Do not ask for anything more.
No.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. So now here we are 2 months later. You're relearning your diet, you're relearning exercise, you're relearning stresses. Did they give you any sort of idea of, maybe it's going to be this amount of time before you can start testing or stressing your heart, or how does it affect, how are you supposed to continue to lose the weight? These are all things that people have no idea. Like what comes next, people have no idea. So, I mean, the answers that you have now are super helpful for sure.
So let me walk people through this here. So first of all, you should have gone to a doctor and just gotten regular testing done and seen where your health is to begin with. Mm-hmm. Check your cholesterol. When's the last time you did that? Check your blood pressure. When's the last time you did that? Just those two little things may tell you something about, what's going on in your body. For me, it was cholesterol that, I would have never had any symptoms that would have shown me this is coming because it's cholesterol that, plaques build up and then clogs an artery. Well, you don't know that's getting done. You don't feel that being done until it hits a point where it either ruptures or whichever, or blocks, right? So those things you have to go check, those little indices like cholesterol and blood pressure to see if there's something going on, and that takes you nothing, literally nothing, right? Because now, going into it after you leave the hospital and there's 5 medications and a nitro spray in your hand that you're supposed to take if you're, on onset of any, shortness of breath and feelings that you get again. So life changes instantly. The hardest thing to deal with after the heart attack was the shortness of breath, or you kind of have the medication creates these moments where you stop breathing. Like you realize, you feel yourself stop breathing and it feels like your heart stopped. And it's so mental. But if you ask anybody that's had this heart attack or anything, that is the scariest part, because every time that happens, you're like, oh, am I going to wake up when I go to sleep? Because it happens when you're lying down mostly. That you kind of stop breathing for a second, and you'd forget how to keep regular heartbeats. I don't know how to explain that any better. but it's that's the freakiest part of the after heart attack, and it takes a while for the medication to regulate, about 2 weeks before that goes away.
Yeah.
So that's the scariest part of the heart attack. And when it came to the heart attack, I don't want to downplay it, but it wasn't as scary as the mental part after.
No, and that's a huge deal, because as we sit here now and we think about a heart attack, like if we go back to just this story alone, you were getting into the shower, felt like an elephant sat on you, did some fucking stretches, and you're like, I'm done. I'll walk this off, right?
Yeah.
And that was the heart attack. So the immediate part of the heart attack, your body then started to reset. You know, back in the old days, you just if you did nothing, you just shaved 20 years off your life, because that was the end of it.
It was people are living and surviving now where you'd be probably dead before.
I mean, that's 6 of one, half dozen of another, because the stuff that we're putting into our bodies now is causing the heart attacks.
Exactly.
and that's a huge fuckery too, because we have I said it now twice. Now I'm gonna have to put an explicit on this one. This is an explicit episode, ladies and gentlemen. Heart attacks and explicitness, not for the young. But here's another thing, not for the young. As I said, we're sitting in a spot where we joked on it earlier. You're 40 years old. You're a baby. They say that 40 is when you start, and I'm seeing it more and more. I mean, our entire lives, you've lived an entire life and retired from a career before you were 30, or before you were 35 anyway.
Yeah. At 30.
At 30, you retired, right?
Yeah.
So all these seasons in the CFL, all this hard work, all this extra stress on your body. And then we think the mentality of it. At 30 years old, Randy has retired. At 40 years old, he's basically on old age pension, right? This is a mentality towards a certain thing. But truth be told, everything that we do in our lives usually leads up to this breaking point, because it is all mental. It leads up to this breaking point that, around 40, you either shit or you get off the pot. And, you wake up and you see things and you start doing things. And I say that now from the perspective of somebody being around 40. But you hear it. You're hearing it everywhere. And, the fact that we are 40, I'm almost 40, you're 40. The people that are listening to this show are probably all relatively within my age range. Some up, some down, I'm sure. I mean, we've probably got some viewers all over the spectrum. I wouldn't be so narrow-minded to say. But we grew up in a time, you and I grew up in a time where an old man was like a 50-year-old jingling change in his pocket with the mustache and like, it was just old was old. But it legitimately was old. Like 50 was old. The way they carried themselves, the clothes they wore, the things that they did, it was an interesting time frame. And this was all time. As we grew up, everything grew with us. The technology grew with us, the dieting, the fads, the yoga, the this, the that, everything grew with us to the point where all of us are now in this giant pile of society together going, we don't really know what we're doing. Some of us have kids. Some of us are taking care of our parents. There's no more rhyme or reason to, the congruency that we once put in place of things, of what they were supposed to be. And there's no reason that you're supposed to be having a heart attack at 40. And there's no reason that so many people are having this. And there's no reason that all these women that you're speaking of are going through this, unless there is a reason, and that being another awakening. The weird thing with you is you had woken up, you had reset, you had reclaimed purpose and pride and character, and you were moving forward with vigor and determination. And then it's not like you needed this wake-up call, but they gave it to you anyway.
It's not that I needed it, but I also wasn't in, to be honest, like I was on a path, but I wasn't completely like all in. Like, I don't know, there's that difference in my head. I was like, I still believed the reason I got that jolt was to even wake me up even more. Yeah. Right. And my mom is like, don't even, right? Because she's all religious, everything. And, I go to church also, but I was like, Mom, this is why, It's like, no. I'm like, yes. And then just last week, and I was kind of dealing with, okay, how do I be normal after around everybody else? Because my wife, like her dad had gone through heart issues. And what happened with him is when he went through it, he's a lot older, but he was about 57 or so, or probably around 60 when it happened to him. But he changed completely. Like he got depressed and just short with people.
Mm-hmm.
And he completely stopped drinking since the day it happened. Stopped smoking. Like he was a chimney smoker.
Yeah.
Like he stopped both hard, cold turkey.
I know the story.
And
it
he
well.
was the guy. He was the guy that we used to sit up and drink beers till 4 a.m. And every guy, if you walked into the local bar down close, there it was like Norm.
Mm-hmm.
That was her dad.
Yeah.
And he went from that to cold turkey, and no one's even seen him in a bar since.
And ladies and gentlemen,
so
he's German, so you can also add that
German.
to how much the man drinks. Yeah.
And so that scared me to think that that's what she had to deal with. That would happen to me, that I'd become what he became. Right. Mm-hmm. So then, yeah.
My observation on this, and I do have an observational standpoint on your life because I talk to you all the time and I see what you're up to.
Yeah.
You also have my team building a lot of your stuff out for you as well. And one of the things that I've noticed since the incident took place was you at one point were adding something new to the webpage almost weekly.
Yeah.
A new item, a new thing. And I was all for it. I thought it was great. I was really impressed with, the ideas and the moving and shaking that you were doing. And I knew what comes of that is a shake off. Eventually you focus down on one thing or two things and you really hammer it out.
Where it's going now. Yeah.
And here we are. You're focusing down and you're really hammering it out. And this came as obviously, well, to me, it was an observational awareness after, I could only assume you were laying in bed at one point, maybe on day 4 and going, what the fuck am I doing? What am I trying to do? What am I doing? What are we, how, am I spread too thin? Am I doing this? Cause you would have had a lot of time to think.
Oh yes.
I could see that being a thing, but you have come out stronger than you went in. And
definitely.
When you say this was a jolt, I can see that. I mean, it's apparent. It's apparent based on your actions, based on your level of happiness, your joy. You radiate better now. And it's so weird because, we really do as a society and as a whole think of, these things happening, for a reason, these things happening, to certain people or at certain times, but and the outcome is often the same. Like you said, everything is a second chance and I'm supposed to do so much more. And it's so interesting for me in this perspective to look at you and say, you were on this path from the time that you and I reconnected a couple years ago up until this heart attack incident. You were progressively getting better and better and better. Every single day you were doing something that was bettering your purpose, your core, your intent, your everything.
Yeah.
And then boom, the heart attack, right? It's usually it's the other way around. Normally it's like I'm on a slide, I'm on a slide, I'm on a slide, I'm on a slide. Boom, the heart attack. Now I'm going back up, back up, back up. You were climbing that mountain, man. You were running that hill. And
like I see if I wasn't running it fast enough.
You were running it fast enough.
I know.
And that's it's such an interesting, it is, and I've said this before, like I sound like a broken record, but it is an interesting perspective to be, you were doing everything right. You were preparing for the heart attack insurance part, right? You were physically preparing for this, and then it took you out. Here's one thing that I could say, based on the level of spirituality that you and I have, I can say this, that knowing that you are not protected now for the rest of your life, you are not protected for heart attacks, will probably have you do certain things in the future differently, which will probably in the future 100%. Save your life. And that's probably where I can see this, because we never know. We never know what's going to happen until it's already happened. I had on the show a couple episodes ago, Erin Carpluck, and she was in the Canadian television show. You probably remember being Erica. If you're in Canada, if you're in Canada, you've seen this show. I don't know if it was on much in the States, but she ran 5 seasons. So the show, this is the story that she gave. The show got picked up, and they ran. So the first 4 seasons of the show were scripted. It was supposed to be a 4-season run, but it was so popular that they ran it a 5th season. Now, what I took from that story was it was interesting to hear this, because I try to tell this to people. Like, there's so much that goes on that is scripted. People will sit there, the average person will sit there and watch, a full season of Being Erica, for example, and they'll think, wow, that was crazy, but they're looking at it one episode at a time. So they're saying, I wonder what happens next. But the only way the show could be interesting is if the writers of the show know what's going to happen next. And usually it's, 1 season written in full and delivered. Humans live their life one day at a time with their hands in the air going, I don't know what's going to happen next. Television shows are scripted 4 years in advance. The entire story of Being Erica, that television character had been mapped out, written out, and obviously well acted. Erin, sorry, if you're listening to this, all right, good for you. That show was done. Your life is very much the same way. We only know now what was taking place and what the importance of something was when we gain future information. So while you're watching the television show and you're like, I wonder what happens next, when you've watched the whole season and then you watch it again, you know what happens next because you have that information. And that's the only way that you can know what's going on with life. The way I can parlay this into life as well is your kids. This is how we teach our kids, because we know you can look at your kid and they can be up to something mischievous, and you can look at them and go, I know exactly what's in your head. You can tell the kid what's in their head, and they'll go, how did you know that? Are you reading my mind? How are you psychic? They think that their life is so unique and that everything is so unique to them. And the interesting aspect of that is when you were a kid and your parents did that to you, it's like, how did you read my mind?
No, it's so easy to tell what they're thinking.
Exactly.
It's fun.
Exactly. Because just like the television show, you've seen it. You've seen it. So you know what they're going to do. Right. But we have this great ability in life to, you're living your life and your parents are witnessing you, and your parents are witnessing your kids. So they're re-witnessing everything as it goes down. And you have the ability to see who created you and what you created and what you're living. So if you can place yourself in the eyes of your parents or the eyes of your kids and in the eyes of yourself, what are you doing with all that crunchy crunch noise?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I had to open something.
Yes. So, I mean, I sounds like I'm prattling here, but I mean, everything does happen the way it's supposed to happen. And I know that you're going to, one way or the other, you're going to change the world. And if that means you're going to change your world, great. And you already have. You've brought in 3 wonderful kids. That's changed the world 100%. But there's so much more. There's going to be somebody that's listening to this. It could be today. It could be tomorrow. It could be next year. It could be 10 years from now. Somebody could drop back and listen to this episode and be like, that shit changed my life. And that, I know you've only got 45 minutes and we're running up to about 42 now. So,
we can go a little more. But what I really want to say, back to how to prepare and what to do and what comes after with this whole, what I'd share with people is, the nurses, the hospital, the process, they're only as good as they're given the opportunity to be. They're amazing once you're there, but it's limited. For someone like me that's, I've made 40 and you walk in and everyone else is 60 to 65, even they're like, what are you doing here? Mm-hmm. And so, everyone, even the nurses have to treat you that you can't do certain things. So it's like a little ego when you're a professional athlete and they're like, okay, so you're going to walk on the treadmill and that's it. I'm like, well, what? It's like, yeah, you can't touch that elliptical. It's too much for you. And I'm like, no, right? That doesn't even compute. And so they're just limited with what they have. That's where I went and I found a heart fit clinic. Even the nurses don't even know some of these places exist. And they asked me for the information so they can look it up. But for everyone out there that is dealing with or has someone that dealt with it, look up heartfit.ca, and look. They have some of the most amazing procedures. I had a friend, once I learned about when I had this heart attack, I learned that he had a heart attack when he was about 32, and he was out hunting, and this was like, he was even better shape than I could ever be.
Mhm.
I couldn't even imagine it. It didn't even like, it was like, what? He reached out to me the second I had mine, and he lost 25% damage to his heart. But these people, they have a machine that will actually regenerate your arteries. It's a crazy, I don't even know, the word is too long for me to pronounce right now, but it convulses your whole body and works your heart to create new arteries, so you can get full full use again, whatever the word is. I'm
Back up
blanking.
to 100%.
Back up to 100. You got me.
Yep.
But those things are out there, right? And if you're searching for answers for loved ones or family or friends, there are better answers than our current system. Not to say our system isn't good, but you're only going to get treated a certain way. And if you want the best out of it to make sure and ensure your life a little further as best as you can, then I'd say, go search for those things like the HeartFit clinic. Yeah, had to get that in there.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm going to have that. I'll have those links in the episode as well. So they'll be in the thing. If anyone, I mean, obviously we're not a heart attack topic community. They do exist. Heart attack communities living with post and pre awareness. All of this stuff is out there. Ladies and gentlemen, we're old now. Old. When I say old now, I mean we're older than we were when this podcast started. We're older than we were last year. We're older than we were the year before. Most of us have never gotten checked out. Most of us have never taken the time or the effort to really put in a step. If I could give any piece of advice, it would just be, I don't know, go to your practitioner, go to your GP and say, hey, give me a scan, give me a pressure, press the button, do the heart thing, give me some pills, give me whatever it is. Take a look inside my ear ball. I don't know. But go. I mean, just go. And there's a ton of you right now that have one or two things that you're like, I can deal with this. But 3 or 4 things and it's too late. So if you need that extra piece, that extra push, that extra thought, we over here, the ones that are doing the talking, are telling you to go. Go get checked out. Go get looked at. Go do the doctor's appointment. Go to the once over. If nothing else, for a peace of mind, just book an appointment. Get it done.
Or reach out to me. I'll talk to you.
Yeah. You can reach out to Randy. Randy will talk to you about heart attack stuff, but it's not the same as having your system tested. And your system, your body is it's where you live, right? Without your body, you're just bloody pain in the ass ghost going around knocking things over and sliming up walls like in the Ghostbuster movies. That's what happens to you. If you don't get checked out, you then become a mess on movie screens. So I love this, and I wanted to get this episode out, and I wanted to talk to you about this, and I wanted people to get out there, and I wanted you to know you're loved, brother. I wanted you to know that. I know you know that, but you definitely are. And go ahead.
The one last thing I did want to touch on, though,
sure,
is but with the heart attack, and I was talking about purpose, trying to figure out how to deal with everything, and that you're supposed to act a certain way, and that's the hardest part to deal with, is just being you, like taking care of yourself and getting there on your own time. That's what took a bit for me, thinking, I'm supposed to act this way, not eat that. I can't eat that steak. I can't have, chicken wings tonight because I had a heart attack, right? Mm-hmm. And I shouldn't have all those things. But if I don't have a reason for myself to abstain and do it for the right reasons, I'm never going to get there.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest part for me. Like I for the last 2 months, it's been almost 3 months since the heart attack, I didn't eat like perfectly. I tried here and there, and I made my meals, but it wasn't until another episode, not a heart attack, but I was coughing up blood, like I said, for a whole week. last week, and that was like, that hit me hard, because I was like, what are you doing? Even though alcohol and food is not, making this happen, it was just like, you got to take this even more serious. You do have to take this seriously and nip this in the bud. And it was the final thing for me to say, I've never been happier just knowing I can do it without worrying about every other piece of noise coming from anywhere around me. Just being able to take care of it for myself on a personal level will beat everything. Don't worry about all the noise outside of your head. You can't deal with it. You can only take care of yourself.
Most of us can't even deal with the noise inside our head.
Yeah.
You mentioned kicking out the booze, and I know we won't talk about it doesn't need to be gotten into what the cause was of that, but you had been dabbling with fasting, with going sobriety and all that sort of stuff, and I remember you saying earlier, you said this time it's good. This time is different than the other ones. This time I will not go back to drinking. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Which goes along the lines of what we were talking about. I have another guest that we were on, speaking of, and we're putting together slowly but surely. I think it'll probably be within this calendar year, the Costa Rica retreat. And we're and you'll be a part of that. We'll absolutely have you down there speaking. And it's going to be one hell of a show. So much will happen between now and a calendar year from now. There's so much in the works, and we really do. We have a lot of fun here on the Mental Mastery Alliance, ladies and gentlemen. Some of us are dickheads. Some of us are hilarious. Some of us have great messages. I don't like to pigeonhole myself in any one spot. I like to be able to connect with people that think like me. And if I want to talk about all these things, then there are people out there that want to hear about all these things. I know it. So we are going to have that. That's coming in the works. There'll be more information coming out about that. But Randy Bloody Spencer will still be alive. He'll probably have 12 more heart attacks and a stroke and a shield of armor on him at this point. But he'll still be alive. He'll still be kicking, and he will be down there speaking to each and every one of you in the sunshine of Costa Rica about, what it's like to have gone about a year completely sober. I think you did 76 days the last time.
Yeah, that was it.
They ironically 76. But there's a huge difference in saying I'm done and I'm done for now. And that I think at this moment in time, I think you're done. I could be wrong. That could change.
Yeah, who knows? It's a mental thing for sure. But I don't, there's not a limit on it this time. It's not like I got to make it to 77 days.
No.
It's just, I'm not, it's not even a factor in my mind for where I want to be and what I need to do.
It doesn't work. Yeah. It doesn't work.
Yeah. When I revisit that, it'll be for when I revisit it.
And I say the same thing. I'm 2.5 years stone sober. And I say the same thing. And it's funny because that stigma it still exists. That sobriety stigma, it still exists. It's like, did I have a problem? Like in hindsight for me, knowing now what I know and I look back on, hell yeah, I had a problem, right? But looking at back then, I was extremely high functioning. So, even now it sounds like I'm making excuses for what I had to do. So you have to ask yourself, why do we live in a society where we have to make excuses for consuming or not consuming poison? And that is the real question about all of it. Whether you drink or you don't drink, when you come to the realization or the mindset or the mentality that it's tomfoolery, gosh darn, you move on from there. And
listen to episode 73.
73. Which one was that? Oh yeah.
Pete Cook. Yeah.
That was the sobriety coach. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually, again, Erin mentioned the same thing. She said, she was talking about sobriety, and this isn't now. It's like it's a running theme. I mean, I think to myself, I could do a few sober episodes because it's changing. It's coming. Erin had said, she said, I heard you talking about sobriety, and she said, you said something like nobody ever quit drinking and said my life has gone to shit. And I remember talking that episode, and I remember going through that, and it's 100% true. And the funny thing is there are so many people out there that are like, I don't drink that much, right? The first problem that you have is saying, I don't drink that much. I don't need to stop drinking. It's like, I even had that conversation with on the other episodes. Like, I don't shoot that much heroin. Leave me alone. What in your mind says there's a difference between heroin and alcohol? I mean, society, the television, all this stuff says that. And this isn't a pro or anti-drinking. This is a choice-making thought process that goes here. You've gone through hell and back physically. And from out of nowhere, you got your heart got RKO'd, for Christ's sakes, to quote the wrestling. From out of nowhere, you're taken down. And it's like, okay, so no, one thing leads to another. Sobriety not even being a topic, but it is a piece of the pie. It naturally becomes a thing when you're like, I got to get my shit together. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you start moving and shaking and of clear mind continuously, you're up in the morning looking for things to do. People are like, I got to replace drinking. What do I replace it with? Well, when you start replacing drinking and the time you spend drinking and the time you spend hungover with reading a book or understanding something new or figuring out some new piece of software or connecting with some new marketplace, it's endless. It literally is endless. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. You also, the Boss Father on Instagram, ladies and gentlemen, give him a follow, the Boss Father. This will be tagged on Instagram. The post will be up. The videos will be up. We're getting fancy with our videos. Boss Father will be all over it. The books that he posts, the books that he's reading, he shares with you what he's reading. He shares with you what he feels about it, and how it can help. And it's the guy's got so much knowledge. Reach out to him. Reach out to him if you have these questions. If you have sober questions, reach out to us. If you have sober questions, reach out to Randy. If you have a heart attack, if anyone has any questions about anything, just reach out to anyone, because somebody is there to give you answers. Somebody is there to give you answers, 100%.
Yes.
And we're not going to do any promo. We're not pushing anything. But right now, I don't know. Is there anything that you wanted to add to this whole thing? I mean, we've almost signed off like 3 times right now. We could talk for hours.
I know.
You and I could go on for hours and hours and hours. But
no, that's pretty much it. I'm just looking forward to how this path continues to progress. I've never been happier in the mindset I'm in. Like, it's just I'm just so prepared for the next step that I can't wait till episode 176. Right?
Well, I think we'll have to have you back at 176. I'm sure we'll see you before then, but we'll definitely have you back. 76 has been reserved, earmarked for Mr. Greatest athlete in all of Canada, Randy Spencer.
Yeah. But thank you. Thank you for having me, and you are a true friend and inspiration for me and helping me through everything. Definitely, I think I post your pictures and from your stories more than anything else. Just love those daily quotes. So if you're not even listening, or if you're listening and you're not following Mr. Mental Mastery Becoming Free Adam Malton, you got an issue. So get on that first.
There you go.
Get on that first.
Take a look at what we're doing over here, he says. And we're doing a lot. We're doing a lot, and it's coming down the pipe. I don't know if I'm going to integrate too much with Facebook. The easiest way to reach us is certainly either email or Instagram. DMs do get replied to. In the words of another famous Canadian, that being Red Green, ladies and gentlemen, keep your stick on the ice.
Thank you for listening to today's Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Let the team know you're listening by using the hashtag MMA and Mental Mastery Alliance. Want more motivation? Be sure to follow online on Instagram at Mental Mastery Alliance and on Facebook at Mental Mastery Alliance. And remember, your perception creates your reality. Make it a great day.
You got it, Pontiac.